Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a huge disconnect in education. Why is it that the very people who know our students best, their teachers, are so often left out of the loop when it comes to the policies that completely shape their classrooms? And what's the incredible cost of getting that wrong? It's a question that just drives school districts crazy. We pour billions of dollars into new reforms, new ideas, but then time and time again, they just don't work in a real classroom. So why does this keep happening? Well, the answer usually comes down to a really basic gap. It's got a name, the policy-practice gap. I want you to picture a giant canyon. On one side, you've got the policymakers in a boardroom with their big ideas. And on the other, you've got the messy, amazing, complex reality of a classroom. See, when the folks writing the rules don't actually talk to the experts on the ground, the teachers, their plans can end up being totally irrelevant, or even worse, just impossible to pull off. And look, this isn't just some abstract philosophical problem. This gap has a real, almost unbelievable financial cost. And it's driven by a crisis that is a direct result of this top-down way of doing things. $2.2 billion. Yeah, that's what it costs the U.S. education system every single year, just from teacher turnover. When teachers feel like they're not being heard, when they feel disempowered by policies that don't make sense, they leave. And finding, hiring, and training their replacements is incredibly expensive.
But honestly, the money is only part of the story. There's a huge human cost. When teachers leave in droves, it destabilizes the entire school. It directly hurts how much students learn. And predictably, this damage hits the most vulnerable students the hardest. In some high-poverty urban areas, get this, up to half of all new teachers are gone within just 5 years. It's a devastating cycle, and it's fueled by policies that just ignore the teacher's voice.
So if the problem is this top-down approach, the solution has to start with a complete change in how we think. We have to stop seeing teachers as just employees who carry out orders. It's time to start recognizing them for who they really are, the actual experts, the architects of a better system. Global organizations like UNESCO say it perfectly. The judgment, the gut feelings, the ability of a teacher to adapt on the fly, that's a uniquely human skill. You literally cannot code it. You can't turn it into an algorithm. That expertise is absolutely essential for helping our kids navigate the wild challenges they're facing today. And this is not some radical new concept. Over 80 years ago, the great education philosopher John Dewey was saying this. He argued that a teacher's real job isn't to be a dictator at the front of the room, but to be a leader within it. They shouldn't just be taking orders from above, they should be leading the way. This really lays it all out. There are two ways to go. You've got the top-down model on the left, where policy is handed down to teachers. That's the one that creates that gap and fails. And then you have the collaborative model, where policy is built with teachers. And that's where you get ownership, you get relevance, and you get real success. Okay, so let's get into the data, because this isn't just about what feels right. This is about making smart, evidence-based decisions that actually create stability. And yes, save a ton of money. And the numbers here, wow. They're just jaw-dropping. Research shows that in schools where teachers feel they have very little sane decisions, the turnover rate is a massive 22%. But look what happens when you give them a high level of authority and a collaborative environment. That turnover rate absolutely plummets to just 6.6%. I mean, let's be clear here. That is a 300% difference. Giving teachers a real voice, real authority, it isn't just a nice perk for morale. It is the single smartest, most fiscally responsible thing a school district can do to keep its teachers. It's how you stop that $2.2 billion bleeding. So when you have evidence this powerful, the solution can't just be a suggestion. It can't be something we do when we feel like it. No, it has to be built into the system. We need to permanently weave the teacher's voice into the very fabric of how our schools are run. So how do we actually make this happen? Well, the research points to 3 really clear, concrete steps. First up, mandate that at least one voting seat on every board of education is held by a current practicing teacher. Second, create formal teacher advisory councils that have a real mechanism to influence policy. And third, make sure teachers are at the table when decisions are made about student data, so it can be a tool to help, not just to judge. So all of this leaves us with one pretty big question. The evidence is just overwhelming. When you include teachers, you get better policies, you save incredible amounts of money, you keep great teachers, and you create more stable schools for our kids. So the question we all have to ask is, why on earth aren't we giving them a seat at the table? The key to a better system is already in our schools. We just have to be smart enough to listen.